if you have an opportunity to change one person's perspective, one person's outlook on life, one person's situation, and you don't do it, I think you're missing an opportunity to make a real difference. And some of these "it takes a village" type statements are kind of cheesy, but I think they really turn out to be true. Where if everybody can help one other person, and they want to do that, and they're up for helping, then it makes a real difference.
So I started the foundation because when I would come in and to work in the morning to do my radio show, there would be something in the news that had happened, a tragedy that had happened, and we'd talk about it on the air, but there was really no way to immediately help. And so 2 or 3 days or 5 days down the road, somebody would form an account at a credit union, and people would kind of start to help. The immediacy of what had happened would be gone. So I created the foundation so that on that day, when it's in the news and when people most want to help, there's one place that they can go, one foundation that can marshal all of their donations and then get the money out immediately.
I mean, people are incredible. The everyday person gives so much and doesn't look for any credit for it. When the marathon money came in, we got $100,000 from Sam Adams. The rest of it was $10, $25, $15, given by people who have their own bills to pay, have their own kids to take care of, but are driven by that desire to care about other people. And this country and the people who live in it and the people who live in this city care so much about others and do so without looking for anything back. It's pretty incredible to me. We've helped raise money to fly somebody to the Shepherd Center in Atlanta who was paralyzed. We've paid for funerals. Listeners donated over $400,000 to marathon victims, and when the marathon bombings happened, we gave that money out to 66 victims within a month and a half of the marathon bombings. $170,000 was donated for the families of the 2 firefighters who died this past year. So we've given money to families whose father has been hurt in an accident at work or in a car accident, so that they can pay their rent and so that they can, because they're not working. So we give to anybody and everybody. We get clearly a lot of people who want us to give, and we kind of just decide on a case-by-case basis if we had more money, we could give more money. Oh, because I have a great life. I give back because I have 2 great kids who are healthy, great family, great wife, and so I'm lucky. I have a dream job, and I don't really work. I talk all day, and so I feel a giant obligation to give back and to try to help out others.
Boston is a city where everybody knows everybody else, which, is mostly a good thing. Sometimes it can be kind of a pain in the butt because everybody does know everybody else. But, it's a city of really tough people, people who take things personally, but, people who kind of act like they don't care a lot of the time, but they actually really do care.
Yeah. So after the marathon bombings, Sam Adams reached out to us, and they have their 26.2 Boston beer that they brew for the marathon every year, and they came to us and said, we'd like to take all the proceeds from that and give them to marathon victims through your foundation. So last year it was over $100,000. They did the same thing this year, and we've established a second Marathon Victims Fund that's an ongoing fund that'll help them as long as we can continue to raise money for it. So I think it'll be more than that this year that goes to those marathon victims.
Excellent.
Yeah. Jim Cook is just, I mean, he's the greatest guy. Anybody who drinks a beer for breakfast every day and is a billionaire is somebody that I admire, you know. But Jim cares so much about the community. He's one of those Boston people who loves the city, was able to build an incredibly successful business here, and then continues to give back. They were brewing 26.2 for this upcoming marathon season, and they invited Carlos and a bunch of the marathon bombing victims to go there, help them brew. It was a great night, a fun night, and I think everybody really enjoyed hanging out with everybody. And Jim's a great host.
So why is this a good partnership between you and Jim?
It's a great partnership because Sam Adams is such a brand that is loved by everybody. So it takes our foundation to a whole new level. You know, we're always trying to get people to find out about us and to hear about our mission. So when they partnered with us on 26.2, it kind of raised the level of our foundation. So within about 2.5 weeks after that awful day, over $400,000 had been donated to the foundation, and you know that money was in some cases was given to victims' families 2 days after the bombings. In all cases, I think within a month and a half, it had all been. We had been able to find everybody. It was tough because the hospitals were very protective, as they should have been, of the victims. So we were eventually able to find everybody and hand out checks to 66 different marathon victims.
Where were you on the day of the marathon?
We were on that marathon day. We had a foundation event going on at the Capitol Grill, which is on Boylston Street. So we were just a block or so away from what happened. Oh, well, I mean, so we're right there at the end of Boylston Street. So as soon as we're outside on the patio, so as soon as you hear the explosions, you see, you know, first responders running down Boylston Street. That's before the fire trucks, the ambulances, you know, the guys from the fire station across the street from the Capitol Grill running down there. And then you see, you know, while you see people leaving, you also see a lot of people going in the direction of what happened to try to help. So, and then, you know, when I heard so many incredible stories of people that you know who went there and helped, whether it was tourniquets or just held somebody's hand. It's pretty amazing. I think it was shocking. Immediately afterwards, it was shocking, and then I think you get mad because you start to understand that it's terrorism and that innocent people, a child died. So I think you're angry, and then I think your emotion is, how can I help and what can I do to help these people, and how can the city show that it's way bigger than a couple D-bags who decided to do what they did that day. Yeah, the first time that we ever talked to Jared, it was from the hospital. He was in his hospital bed, and the foundation had found him and given him money, so he called the show. And he's just he's an incredible guy. He speaks his mind. He doesn't hold back at all. But he's been somebody who has wanted to give back, and a lot of these marathon victims, it's amazing to me. They want to take money that's been given to them and give it to other people, even though, in many cases, it's the most ridiculous thing is that these guys have to get a new limb every 4 or 5 years, and insurance doesn't cover that. But rather than, when they're given money, rather than keep it for themselves, they wanted to give it to others. And Jared's just a great example of a Boston person who cares.
Right. And how do you feel about Jared's mission to show young people heroes in our community? How important is that?
I think it's really important. I think that, you know, I don't know that that you're ever going to change warped points of view that people have that lead to things like what happened here. But I think that being able to show an example of real heroes, which is, you know, that day is an example of real heroes. That's that day, everyday people, some of them ran in that direction, you know, while everybody else was rightly going in the other direction. So to me, if you're able to reward people and lift people up as an example of what we should all try to be, I think it's a great mission. I met Joe when he was playing for the Patriots, and he's an incredible guy. He was very concerned about helping out with charities when he played. You know, if I needed him to go to my golf tournament or go to an event, he'd go. You know, I think he was clearly moved by September 11th and you know, his brother's situation in New York, and his foundation, what he has done with that is incredible. And you know, Joe's one of those heroes from that day, you know, from Marathon Monday, you know, and he doesn't like to talk about it. And that's, I guess, the way real heroes are, is they don't like to talk about it. But he's just, the work that he and his wife have done with that foundation is incredible. Well, you know, I think all those pictures were significant. And I think, you know, look, Joe stands out, as should Matt Chatham, because I think people go, okay, there's a couple guys who played for the Patriots and they're well-known guys, and look what they did. But, you know, I think all those pictures show the real bravery of everyday people on that day. And, you know, I always think to myself, you know, if I were in that situation, would I be that brave? You know, I don't know that I would be. And so I think that all those pictures, you see those people, and you just admire the courage and the steel and the way in which they handled themselves that day. Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for the national anthem, and for you know, I'm one of those people who still thinks we should show pride in our country. You know, as crazy as that is. So when that happened, when everybody simultaneously started to sing that anthem and sang it the whole way through, to me, that was a big, gigantic FU to anybody that wanted to try to do something to Americans. And it was also a kind of a symbol of, you know, the worst thing happened to this city that could ever happen. But you know what? We're on the road to recovery, and we're going to help each other out, and you're not going to be able to keep us down. Well, I think I'm more aware of, you know, how tough it is for people, and how, you know, when a tragedy happens, you don't realize everything that's associated with that. You don't realize the medical expenses that aren't covered by insurance. You don't realize how expensive it is to have a funeral. So I think that, you know, I as I said earlier, you know, I'm lucky, knock on wood, I have 2 very healthy kids. You don't realize how draining it is and how taxing it is on a family's resources when a child is sick. So I think that we're all kind of humming along in our everyday lives and not necessarily paying attention to everybody around us, so we don't understand the struggles that people have. So I've learned more about that, and I'm really glad I have. I've learned that the people of Boston and the people of Massachusetts are the most generous people on the planet. I'm amazed, because we ask them to donate 1 month, and then something happens and we ask them to donate it again, and they do it. And I'm saying to myself, where do they find the money to give? So yeah, I've learned that the people around here, the people that we see every day, are the most generous people in the world.
Why is it important to you to use your media presence for good?
Because I think the media in general does a lot of shitty stuff. So I think we have an obligation. Again, we're lucky to have the jobs that we have, where we haven't, we talk all day. So I think it's really important that media, whether it's television, radio, digital media, kind of uses that power in a positive way. And yeah, it's great to, to have fun and to do what we do, but we also need to be aware that when it comes to the community, there's an obligation to support everybody. I think the news reflects what people want, which is that's a whole nother issue in itself, right? So if people didn't want to see what was on the news, they wouldn't watch it, and it would quickly be 20 shows in a row about a cat that made its way home 20 miles away after 2 years. So people want what they want, and that's what they see on TV and when it comes to the news.
That's right. And who has inspired you in your life and why?
Boy, I was inspired by my dad. My dad was a really hardworking guy, and when I was young, my dad would do little things to help people in the community. I remember a woman who her water heater had broken and they had no hot water, and my dad bought them a water heater anonymously, and so I was really inspired by, and that's kind of on a micro level, kind of what the foundation does is, one person helping out somebody that they might know or that they don't know, and so yeah, I guess I would say that he inspired me most when it comes to giving.